Warm greetings to all the learners. This is Dr. Nazia Sultana, Assistant Professor from Department of Commerce, Osmania University. In this session, we will learn about rural distribution. This is one of the important aspects of rural marketing, where we are talking about how the product can reach the consumer, because rural audiences stay in the interior parts of the country. So therefore, and the infrastructure facilities are not very well built in these areas. So therefore, it becomes very difficult for companies to take their products into the interior parts of the villages. So today we will discuss what all strategies can be adopted by a company when they are trying to distribute their product in the rural areas. So the topic for today's discussion is rural distribution. In rural distribution, we are going to learn about what is meant by distribution, who are the channels who can support this function of distribution, whether these channels are direct or indirect, why are they needed, how do companies select which channel they should have to sell their product, what problems do they encounter when they are distributing in rural areas, and you have got how electronic media or electronic platforms can help in distribution. So you have got the concept of e-Chaupal, which we are going to learn in this particular discussion today. To begin with, first we will discuss about what is a marketing or a distribution channel. So a distribution channel basically is a set of independent organizations which are basically involved in the process of making the product available for use. So when a rural consumer is convinced that he wants the product, where is the product available, where will he find it, where can he buy it from? So he has to find out where the product can be bought from. So therefore, there is an independent organization which is involved in the process of making this product available to the consumer. You call such organization as a distribution channel or a marketing channel. This channel will help in creation of customer value so that the company can sell the product to the ultimate consumer. So you are basically talking about an organization. It is like a pathway. It is a pathway between the company and between the consumer. So you need somebody who can move the product from the company's side, take the product and give it to the consumer, because the company and the consumer may be geographically spread. The company may be in some part of the country, whereas the consumer can be throughout the country. The consumer can be anywhere in the country. So therefore, how will this be possible for the company to take the product to that consumer? So you have a path through which it should go. That pathway is nothing but the marketing or the distribution channel, which will facilitate movement of goods from the place of production to the place of consumption. So where it is produced, this channel will take the product from that place and they will bring the product to the place of consumption. So you call it as a marketing channel. And in this marketing channel, you have two prominent things to know. One is a middleman. Middleman basically is a business firm which is rendering the service related to sale or purchase of products from the producer to the consumer. So it is like the very word middleman. So he is in between the company and the consumer. He will take the product from the producer and give the product to the consumer. So that is a middleman. Companies can sometimes eliminate the middleman by directly selling the product, but they cannot eliminate the distribution function. They have to undertake the distribution function, though they can eliminate this middleman. Sometimes companies can also afford to have larger distribution channels because of growth in technology, because of growth in supply chain and logistics management. You have more of distribution channels which can be used by the company. You also have, companies which are e-commerce companies like Amazon or Flipkart, which are also entering into rural areas which have got bumpy roads or which have got bad infrastructure. Even to the interior parts of these areas also they are able to deliver their product, because they have got the distribution partners with them who can penetrate into such areas. So company can eliminate the middlemen, but they cannot eliminate the function of a middleman, that is a distribution function which is there. Most of the time the students of rural marketing get confused with lot of terminologies which are used in distribution. Some of these I will try to explain to you. The first terminology which is used is a middleman. As I told, it is an intermediary, it is a link between the company and the consumer. You can also sometimes have a broker or an agent. So it is not a middleman, but it is a broker who is an agent, and this particular broker or an agent is basically a middleman, an intermediary who has got legal authority to represent the manufacturer. Say LIC for example, you have got agents through whom LIC will try to sell their policies in the rural areas. So they are working on behalf of the company legally. So that is called as an agent or a broker. You also have the third terminology, which is a wholesaler. Wholesaler is an intermediary. It is a channel between the company and between the consumer, where this wholesaler will buy the product in large quantities from the manufacturer. So you call it as bulk buying. So when somebody buys in large quantities from the manufacturer and makes it available, then it is called as a wholesaler. Then you have a retailer. Now this person who must have bought in large quantity, who is a wholesaler, he can actually sell directly to the market, or sometimes he can have somebody else through whom the sale can be made. So who is this somebody else? It is a retailer. So retailer will buy from the wholesaler. So the link is company sells in large quantity to wholesaler, retailer will buy from wholesaler in small quantities and he will give to the consumer. So you have company, wholesaler, retailer and consumer. That is how the link will flow. Depending upon what is the nature of the company, nature of the product, you can have different types of channels which you can adopt. So I told you who: middleman, agent, wholesaler, retailer. Then you can also have a distributor. The moment you take the name distributor for a marketing channel, these people perform not only the function of movement of the product, but they perform many other functions, which I will tell you in a little while. So distributor is somebody which is describing an intermediary who undertakes many functions. So not only the physical movement of the product, but a person, an intermediary who undertakes other functions also is called as a distributor, which I will tell you in a little while. Then you have a dealer. Dealer can be term which can be used for anybody. Dealer can be the term which can be used for an agent also. It can be used for a wholesaler also. The word dealer means somebody who deals with. So whoever deals in your product can be called as a dealer. Like how you say authorized dealer of so and so company products. So you call them because these people are dealing in that particular product. That way you have dealers, the term which is being used. Now why are these marketing channels important? They are very important to complete the chain of marketing, to complete the marketing activities which are there, because how well you design the product, how much ever price can be convenient, affordable, very well your promotions can be done, but unless and until the product reaches the consumer, they start buying it, they pay price for it, how will you say that your company has sold something? Whatever was being produced has been given to the consumer. So that way distribution is one of the essential functions in marketing. And distribution channels which you have, they have a long-term commitment with the organization. So these people undertake functions on behalf of the company. So you can have distribution channels which are there. Now companies use distribution channels because they offer greater efficiency. The company can concentrate on other functions which are more strategic. Strategic means core functions. So which are very main functions of the company, like production. So they can concentrate on that function and they can give away the function of movement of the product to somebody else who is a distributor. So therefore, this particular function of distribution gives greater efficiency to the organization. The function of distribution is also necessary because it will help assortment of the product. Assortment, because products are different, you have products in different categories which are there. So therefore, which product should be sold to whom? Say for example, if you talk about soap, you have so many fragrances of soaps, you have so many different brands of soap, you have so many soaps which are used for so many purposes. So therefore, when you are assorting, assortment is nothing but classification of the product depending upon certain criteria. So when you are assorting this particular product, the assortment function can be done by the distribution channel. So that way it gets assorted. Then this distributor also will help the company in matching the supply with the demand, because distributor is a link between the company and the consumer. So therefore, the distributor can tell the company about fluctuations in the demand and inform the company that so and so place needs so much of goods, so that the company can give the goods to that particular place. So matching between the supply and the demand, this function is executed through a distribution channel. And distribution channel also informs the company about a very important aspect called changes in taste, preferences and habits of the consumer, because it is the distributor who is directly connected with the customer. If there is any kind of a deviation in the regular buying behavior of a consumer, that can be informed by the distributor to the organization. Say for example, if the consumers were regularly buying some product, but because there is a change in the taste or a habit or a preference or change in the customs or anything happens, then that product may not be demanded now. So therefore, who has to inform this to the company? It is the distributor who will pass on the information to the company so that the company can make variations in their product to suit the needs of the market. So distributor becomes a link informing the company. And they are also performing the function of sales, advertising and promotion also, because the distributor, by the virtue of them being the distributor, they naturally promote the product so that the product can be sold. And distributors also undertake the function of maintaining stock, because unless and until they maintain stock, depending upon what is the demand in the market, then the products will not be available. Therefore, you have to maintain appropriate amount of stock. Inventory should be maintained by them so that they can match the demand of the market. Then they also undertake the function of installation, maintenance and all in case it is related to services industry. Say if it is a product, you go to the shop and you buy the product and the consumption is being done. But if it is a service, say for example, you buy an air conditioner or you buy a refrigerator, you get it to, as I told, there is an increasing demand in white goods. So therefore, then when there is an increasing demand in these electronic goods and household appliances and all, then this has to be bought by the consumer and that also has to be installed in their houses. So air conditioners, say for example, if there is a growing demand for refrigerators and air conditioners, then the consumer will take the product to their house, but there should also be service of installing it. Somebody should come, demonstrate how it works, install it to them. So distributor does this function of installation and also maintenance. After sales services are done by the distributors. Broadly speaking, these marketing channels perform three broad functions. Their functions can be classified into three broad categories. The first category is called as transactional. That means transaction, based upon what is the transaction that they are doing between the consumer and between the company. Based on that, their function is called as a transactional function. Let us see what do they do in this transactional function. They do buying. That means they purchase the product from the company. So buying. Then they do selling. So they are transacting with the company. They are into touch with the company. Then they do selling. That means they take the product and sell it to the consumer. And they are taking risk. So risk taking is also a part of transaction. In case the product becomes obsolete, that is outdated, or in case the product is no more demanded in the market, they already have taken it from the market, from the company. So therefore, there is a whole amount of risk which is being involved in this entire transaction. So distributor takes that particular risk. So while they are buying, selling, that is transacting, they are also assuming and taking risk on account of any changes which may happen to the product demand or the product itself. That is the first function, transactional. Second is logistic. Logistic is to do with movement. So you talk about supply chain, how the goods are moving, how the goods are being supplied to the market. So under this function of logistics, again you have sub functions. The first one is called assortment. Assortment means creating product categories depending upon the different needs of the customer. So products are assorted, products are classified, classification of the product you do, and then you say that, say for example, when you say bank, the bank may have different types of accounts. So you have a savings account, you have a current account, you have a recurring deposit account, you have a loan account. So depending upon who is your customer, whether the customer is a depositor, he wants to deposit in a savings account, then you offer him savings account product. That is the product which you are offering to them. That is a service of a banking industry. Say for example, if the customer is a loanee, wanting to take a loan from the company, from the bank, then you talk about, you know, the bank having to open a loan account. So you call that as one classification. Or you talk about recurring deposit. Say if the customer is more interested in saving on a regular basis their income into the bank, then the bank can offer them recurring deposit account. So what is happening here? You are trying to classify the various services of the bank based upon the need of the customer. So you have, this is called as product or service assortment, different classes of the product or classification of the product or the service based on the need of the consumer. So that way the distributor marketing channel will take up the function of product assortment. They take up the function of sorting. Sorting is to do with assembling and protecting the products at convenient location so that the product can be given to the consumer. Sorting it is called. So you are trying to assemble the product and you are trying to protect the product. Some products need assembly, whereas some products do not need assembly. So you do sorting, and some products are made of different qualities. So based on that also sorting has to be done. Say for example, you talk about agriculture product only, rice or wheat for instance, then when this rice or wheat is being procured for selling, then you can sort it depending upon protection which is being given to the for convenient location. Then you can also talk about transporting, where you are saying physically moving the product, and you talk about storing. So you are storing the product so that the product is protected from all kinds of hazards, dangers which are there. So you say all these are a part of your logistic function. So you do assortment, you do storing, you do sorting and transportation as a part of your second function, which is your logistic function. Third function is function of facilitation, facilitating. So you are trying to serve the customer. So you are trying to facilitate, where you talk about financing. See, rural consumers have got low levels of income and the income is irregular. So therefore, for them to meet their demands, they need appropriate money, finances at appropriate times. So this distributor, the marketing channel who is in between, they can also extend credit to the rural audiences. So they can do financing, that can also be done, or they can do grading. Grading is testing the product, inspecting the product, or judging the product and giving quality grades to the product. So grading, and sometimes some products are being graded by the company itself. When the company is recognized by some international standards organization or Indian standards organization, then say for example agricultural product, you have got AG mark, AG mark. So if you buy turmeric or any product which is coming from the field, then you have got AG mark which is there on their brand. So that is sometimes done by the company itself. Other times the distributor will do the grading which is there. Then you talk about market research. Distributors also will do market research, where they try to see who are the other competing brands who are entering into the village or in the rural area, and how can this company's brand be protected against these competitors who are entering in the rural area. So therefore they do this function of handling market information and market research. So broadly speaking, marketing channel performs these functions. You have transactional, logistic and facilitation. Transactional, where they do buying, selling and risk taking. Logistics, where they do assortment, sorting, storing and transporting. Facilitation function, where they do financing, grading and marketing research. So these functions they do. These are broad classification. Apart from that, you have other functions also which they do. For example, inventory management. So they have to manage the goods, they have to manage the product, they have to manage the inventory, they have to maintain adequate stock in hand so that they can meet the demand. So they have to maintain, depending upon what are the demands in the market, they have to maintain adequate goods with them so that the need of the society can be met. So you have got maintaining adequate stock and also storing that stock safely. That is an inventory management function. Then you also have a function of physically distributing so that they can coordinate with the delivery expectations, schedules which are there, the appropriate plans for delivery. They can also think about, how these consumers, in case somebody gets a defective product, then how should they return this defective product to them, how will they return to the company. So the entire arrangement of defective products being returned back to the organization, that also has to be taken care. Not only delivering the product, but also sometimes if there are any returns from the customer, how are those returns to be handled, that also has to be taken into consideration. Then they also have to take into consideration feedback. Whatever feedback they get from the customer, they have to pass on this particular feedback to the company so that company can make improvements in their product and they can offer better services to the consumers. These are some of the functions which we have discussed as distribution channel. Now we will talk about how does company design the distribution channel. Basically, company have two options of designing a distribution channel. They can opt for an indirect distribution or they can opt for direct distribution. Indirect distribution is one where the company is making use of some intermediary, anybody who is a middleman, who is in between. Or a direct distribution channel is one where the company does not have an intermediary, but the company itself sells to the consumer. So company is selling directly to the consumer. There is no intermediary involved. So you have an indirect distribution channel and a direct distribution channel. Which channel to choose now, whether you should choose a direct distribution channel or an indirect distribution channel. Let us see how do you take that particular decision of selecting a distribution channel as a company. So if you are a company where your buyers are easily identifiable, if you are able to identify that in a particular village, these are the people who are looking for my product, then you can go for a direct channel because you are a company and you have identified who wants to buy your product. So directly you can go and sell to them. So that way, if the buyers are easily identifiable, then you can go for a direct channel. Second, in case you are employing personal selling, that means where you have one-to-one interaction, then also you can go for direct distribution channel. Like we had this Ministry of Women and Child Development, where they talked about health care of women in rural areas, where they actually employed large number of volunteers were employed in order to go to these rural areas and talk to women about their hygiene. And sale of sanitary napkins and all to the women. So therefore, there you talk about use of personal interaction between the volunteers and between the ultimate consumers who are there. So this ministry employed direct distribution channel to go to them and interact with them. So that way it depends whether you are able to identify your buyers and whether you are able to have interaction with them, then you can go for a direct channel which you can employ. On the other hand, you can also avoid intermediaries and go for a direct channel. So, you do not want an intermediary, then you can go for a direct channel. That, say for example, you call something as a niche market. Niche market is a very small segment in the market catering to the needs of a small group. What do you say niche? Niche is basically a small area. You call it as a niche. So, when you say niche marketing, you talk about a small group of customers who have got a specific need and you are trying to focus on that particular need. So, in such a case, you do not need an intermediary. The company can directly address the audiences who are there. So, you talk about that also. Indirect channel you can employ in case the company has intermediaries and distribution channels which can perform more efficiently and less expensively. That means these distribution channels are not charging very high cost from the company and they are able to penetrate into large rural areas. Then the company can think about going to these intermediaries instead of going directly to the rural areas. So, they can go through intermediaries, and customers are very hard to reach directly. When the company is not able to reach the customer directly, but they can reach through an intermediary, then also they can go. There are some, for example, there are some tribal groups which are there in rural India where they do not want an outsider interaction. So, therefore, for a company to reach such tribal groups, it becomes very difficult. So, therefore, you can have a person from among the tribal group only who can become an intermediary for your company and through whom you will sell. So, having a direct contact with the customer is not possible, but you can have a contact through a middleman who can be there. So, in such cases also where it is difficult or hard for the company to go and sell directly, then also you can go for intermediary. Some of the northeastern parts of India, say for example, you have got the hilly areas which are there where roads are not properly built and all. Then in such cases also, for an MNC or for a big company to reach them, it may become difficult. So, therefore, what they can do, they can have franchisees who can be in that area only and who can help this company to sell. You can have distributors who can sell on behalf of them. So, you would have indirect distribution channel which can be used. Now, when you say rural distribution, you can go either for indirect or direct. Now, there are 5 layers of rural distribution. You have layer 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, where layer 1 is basically national or state level, where you have the company depot through whom you can function. Layer 2 is at the district level, where you can have a van operator, or you can have a rural distributor, or you can have a stockist. You can have a third layer which can be called as a tehsil headquarter, that is the town or the village headquarter. You would have a retailer and a distributor, or you can go for a wholesaler, village exhibition or a hart or a mela which can be organized, or a retailer. Then you have now lastly we will talk about e-Chaupal, where I told you about how e-Chaupal helps in distribution. So, we are talking about this initiative. The e-Chaupal is a Hindi word where Chaupal means a village meeting place. So, e-Chaupal is an initiative of ITC Limited, where they are trying to link rural farmers directly through internet, so that these rural farmers can procure agriculture and aquaculture product. There is a diagram which shows the linkages of this e-Chaupal. This was launched in the year 2000, and it is one of the biggest initiatives which are there, which is linking the rural farmers to the agriculture and aquaculture products which are there, so that physical transmission through the use of intermediaries can be done to these people. Like you had problems of reliable information, availability of inputs, storage, access to market and supply chain. These all were the problems, but because of e-Chaupal, the farmers are able to overcome these problems. There is information provided through the e-platform. The website portal provides all the information to the agricultural farmers who are there, and they help them to procure the inputs, that is fertilizers, seeds and all, and also to get in touch with the market also. So, that is one of the very appreciable initiatives which is given by the government of India through ITC Limited, where ITC Limited was behind the creation of this platform e-Chaupal, and through which all the farmers are able to reach the market. So, the supply chain, the distribution from the farmer's side is happening with the help of e-Chaupal also. So, in this session today we have studied about what is distribution channel. We spoke about different types of distribution channel, functions performed by them, how do companies choose distribution channel, criteria which they can adopt, what is this e-Chaupal and why are the farmers utilizing this e-Chaupal. Thank you very much.